All right, I have 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll ask Chaplain Brian Nevins to come up and give the invocation.
If you please pray with me. Dear gracious and loving God, thank you for your many and abundant blessings, especially as we celebrate this precious season of Thanksgiving. Thank you for our representative republic and the right to vote. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you also for the freedom to gather and direct our lives. Your word says that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. In that, I pray for our outgoing and incoming mayors, for the city manager, our city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant them the ability to work together in harmony, when there is honest disagreement, and unity above all for the sake of city progress, with the setting aside of personal differences. I ask that you give them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Erlanger. And it is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. That was very beautifully put. Let's see. I now call the November 20th, 2018 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Let's stand and give a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Hoffman, could you please take roll call?
Mr. Burke? Here. Mr. Cahill? Here. Ms. Kyle? Here. Mr. Skidmore? Here. Ms. Sedkamp? Here. Ms. Cahill? Here. Mr. Montgomery? Here. Ms. Skidmore? Here. Ms. Pitts? Mr. Nicely? Here. Ms. Fetty? Here. Mr. Blankenship? Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Council, you've received a copy of the minutes of the October 2nd, 2018 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as written. Motion by Mrs. Sedkamp, second by Mr. Cahill. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. You've received a copy of the agenda for this evening's meeting, October 2nd, 2018. Or no, this is not October 2nd, 2018. This is November 20th. Excuse me. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as written. Motion by Mrs. Fetty, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion carried. All right, first then we have the special presentations. We've got the business spotlight, LINEX. Welcome.
Thank you.
Didn't see you sit there.
Just go right into it?
Yeah.
Well, good evening. Brian Rollo with LINEX of Northern Kentucky. So just by show of hands, who knows what LINEX is? It's pretty fair. Okay. So we are located at 3126 Dixie Highway. As you can see by the site, we are right behind Shoe Palace. We are right next to Kroger or the old library, right there on Montgomery Street. So we had, okay, so what LINEX is. LINEX is a one-stop shop for your vehicle. So we do spray and bed liners, truck accessories, rust proofing, undercoating, lift kits, window tint detailing, remote starts, wheels and tires. So pretty much anything you can think of to customize your vehicle, we can do it. Our grand opening was April 20th of this year. Some highlights, of course, my daughter in the middle, the first truck that we sprayed, and my father who taught me the work ethic that got me to this point. So who is Linex? So Linex is a nationwide leader in vehicle customization, accessories, and protective coatings. We've been the best bedliner on the market for 25 years. We are dedicated to providing our customers with products and solutions that exceed expectations, and we promise premium performance, superior quality, exceptional value, and excellence in every dimension of your Linex experience. So if you come into my shop, you can be guaranteed that we're going to take care of you from start to finish. Here's some pictures of our showroom. If you Google Linex of Northern Kentucky, you can take a virtual tour and you can walk around our actual showroom. This is just a few pictures of what the inside of our shop looks like. So spray-on bedliners is our primary business. This is what keeps the lights on. So all of our bedliners come with a nationwide lifetime warranty, and they're VOC free, so once our product is sprayed and dried, there's no issues there environmentally. Our standard liner is $495, and that's for a short bed. Long bed's $525. So you're going to get that durability, function, and affordability. So we do have a premium liner. It's UV stable. It's a little more durable. It's a little easier to clean, but it's going to maintain that rich black luster. And that is $645. So it's well worth it in the grand scheme of things when you think of how expensive trucks are these days. Matt may or may not know. So here's some examples of accessories that we do for trucks. So bed covers, it's that bottom right picture there. That's our best-selling hard trifold cover. We do those for $1,000 installed. Step bars, bumpers, seat covers, trailer hitches, toolboxes, exterior lighting, fiberglass caps. So we pretty much do it all in terms of the truck realm. Some commercial accessories that we do. We've been doing some of the water district's new trucks, outfitting them with toolboxes, headache racks, and undercoating them to make sure that these vehicles are going to maintain and keep appearances, but also protect the investment that they're putting into them. And right there we see a commercial van with shelving, a rubber mat, a bulkhead, and even ladder racks. So we're not just for residential, we do a lot of commercial work as well. A natural addition to Linex is Value Guard rust proofing and undercoating. It is approved by OEM manufacturers. We actually spray for all the big names around here, whether it's Ford, GM, Nissan. It's all, they all approve of this product. It meets their specifications. And through this process, we do the undercoating, which is protecting outside in. We do rust proofing, which is protecting from rust inside out. So that goes into your hood, your fenders, your doors, your rockers, your cab corners, your tailgate. So that's the way we protect from the inside out. We do offer their fabric protector or leather vinyl protector, as well as a paint sealant. Those come with a 5 to 7 year warranty, but it is a lifetime warranty on rust if it's new. Another big part of our business is WeatherTech. How many people here have WeatherTech in their own vehicles? So there's an opportunity. So once you have WeatherTech, most people don't go back. But we are a diamond dealer for them. We match WeatherTech.com pricing. Most of our accessories we get in next day if we don't have it in stock. So we do carry a lot of WeatherTech in stock for the trucks. But as you can see, WeatherTech is more than just floor mats. They have their cargo liners, your side window deflectors, and your mud flaps. Cargo liners are anywhere from $180 to $200. Cargo, for the floor liners, cargo liners are about $100. Side window deflectors are about $100, and the mud flaps are $45. So here's an example of some of the vehicles that we've done just in the past 6 months. You can see lift kits, wheels and tires, fender flares, custom bumpers, grills, exterior lighting. With that truck in the middle is an example of a fiberglass cap, just like this one down at the left. Another big part of our business is Jeeps. So the top two, the left and the right, are both fully sprayed on the exterior for a custom look, but the best protection you can get for your vehicle, whether you're in the woods or on the trail. Our product does come in different colors. It's not just black. So any color you can possibly think of, we can do it, except metallics. So that Jeep bumper, the red bumper right there, that is our product. And this is a simple Jeep down at the bottom right. It just has a 2.5-inch lift, 35-inch tires, Nerf bars or step bars. So it's pretty much what every Jeep person wants to do to their vehicle right away, and we can help them get there. So within the last 6 months, we've had the opportunity to do Mike Zimmer's bed in his truck. He's the coach of the Vikings. Jake Fisher, which is the Bengals offensive tackle, and then anyone that likes the craft beers around here, we were able to do Evan Rousey, his truck. So a lot of different connections that I've made that I didn't think I would have made. So why do I do it? I do it for these right here. My wife is the reason that I can do this. My daughter is my whole world. So what's funny is my card says owner, but I'm just a manager. My girls run the show. And then our two dogs there. So yes, you can line X anything. I do have a line X donut at my shop if you want to come look at it. But yeah, I do invite you all to dream of what you can spray. But any questions for me? Good deal. Well, that's it for me.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
guys.
Brian. It's always so nice for us to get an idea of what you do and how you do it and get to know you a little bit. So thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Next on the agenda, we've got the mayor's report. I've got a brief report here. I don't know if anybody else heard it, but I got to hear Jessica Fetty on the radio this morning. Thank you for doing such a great job representing Erlanger. Earlier today, there was the Attitude of Gratitude at the Transitions, or the Grateful Life Center. This was their employee appreciation event. And recently, I think we've all heard that United Dairy Farmers has announced the $20 million expansion and the investment in Erlanger. And I just wanted to note real quickly that that is outside of the TIF district. We've had a lot of great development inside the TIF district, and here is one where one of our existing businesses has chosen to stay here, reinvest in our city, and it wasn't because of a TIF. December 4th, we've got a council meeting. At this meeting, I'm going to be looking for council's ratification of the appointment of new members on the Code Enforcement Board. There's 2 positions opening up there. And the Local Appeals Board, there's 1 position there. If council has any recommendations, please email me their name, phone number, and reason why they'd be a good fit. Right now, I've got 44 people who are already interested in those 3 openings. On December 17th at 11:30 a.m., Transitions is going to be having their ribbon cutting ceremony. That's the new facility that was in the old Pleasure Isle building, the facility down there. They are bringing on 63 new employees. Between transitions and the Grateful Life Center, they're going to have an annual, their salaries each year are going to be, they're going to be paying about $3 million in salaries between those facilities in our city. And they're going to be able to house they're housing currently 110. They're going to be able to house 160 more new people that are going to be going through drug treatment here in our city. So if council can be there, I think that you guys, if you haven't received an invitation yet, you will be receiving it in the next day or so. I think it would be good to have a good showing there. On December 20th, we'll be having a committee meeting here. Right now, the plan is also to go ahead and have the swearing in for the newly elected officials that evening. We've got a commitment from the Lieutenant Governor, Janine Hampton, that she will be here to do the swearing in. December 20th. I'm sorry, excuse me, December 18th. Thank you. Tuesday, December 18th. I don't know how much of a committee meeting we're going to have that evening, but I did want to I want to talk about this, and whether it may be December, it may be January, but I would like to put on the committee meeting, the next committee meeting agenda, to talk about the 3 stop signs on Hulbert. On Hulbert Avenue right now, we've got 3 three-way stops. And I just wanted to talk about that and the possibility of making those 4-way stops. We've had some complaints from some of the neighbors in that area that those are dangerous intersections because the other ways don't necessarily realize that the one way is not they don't have a stop sign. It's because of the hill, yeah, the steep hill. So, and that's all I have to report. Moving on the agenda, we've got the reports of committees. First, we've got Mrs. Sudkamp and Mrs. Kyle for police.
Yes, I have a few things. First of all, we want to congratulate Steve Holstrom, who graduated from the Police Academy. And on October 13th at the White Castle Coffee with a Cop, we collected donations for breast cancer awareness. And I know that our police force wore their pink T-shirts too. They were pretty snazzy looking. And then ECAT conducted 2 search warrants with the result of arrests for a large quantity of drugs. And that's a good one. And then currently we're accepting applications for a Citizens Police Academy. And if you've never been, Patty and I were lucky enough to go to the very first one. It is really eye-opening. You learn so much, and you learn to appreciate our officers. And it's not just the police force; it's the whole system, you know, from A to Z. So you'll meet judges and jailers, and you know, the whole 9 yards. Really worthwhile if you can make that. So if you're interested in that, you know, please call the city building and get more information. That's all I have.
Patty, hit your, there you go.
I'm sorry. The viral baby story was shown on Pickler and Ben on October the 5th. It went nationwide. Pamela Rader just took a phenomenal picture of the officers and all their babies, and it just went viral. It was awesome. I want to take the opportunity to give just a huge shout out to our Erlanger Police Department detectives. They have been undergoing a 9-month investigation of one person, and they got him, and they've nailed him, and he's been charged. The gentleman's name is Robert Poole. I'm sure you've seen him all over the news. And our detectives are the ones that are going to put him away for a very long time. The charges against this man, who was an attorney here in Erlanger, which makes it even more horrific for me, the fact that he was working here. He was 8 counts of human trafficking, 2 human trafficking of minors, 3 unlawful transactions with minors, 1 rape, and 1 bribing of a witness. Now, these guys are phenomenal at what they do, and that's all I have to say about that. And Chief's in the house.
All right, thank you. Next, we've got Fire EMS with Mrs. Pitts and Mrs. Fetty.
We were saddened to learn of the passing of a lifetime member, Chief Tim Koenig, on October 27th, 2018. Tim started with the Erlanger Fire Department in December of 1972, and he retired in 2009. So our prayers go out to his family and friends. On Sunday, November 25th, at the Bengals and Browns game, our Fire and EMS Honor Guard will be presenting the colors prior to the game. So that's pretty awesome. That's it.
That's cool.
Chief?
Thank you. Thank you. All right, then we've got our Public Works with Mr. Cahill and Mr. Skidmore.
So we have a few highlights for you. The Narrows Nelson Road Improvement Project, the weather has been wet, but we're still on schedule for a mid-December completion. There has been some questions about that. Pavement is to start next week on that project. Erlanger Road has been completed. Alpha Court has been completed. Beta, Kelly and Michelle Circle are scheduled for next spring. We had to move that over because of the weather. Leaf collection is ongoing. Just check the city's webpage for pickup, and that program is going to run through December 7th.
Yes, I would like to highlight on the little ice storm we had. Public Works had about 200 calls from residents about picking up debris. They have done a real good job. A lot of it was pretty much up to Duke to get their job done first before Public Works could come in because there was a lot of wires down. But as of the 21st of November, they will be picking up debris. After the 21st, you could take it to Jack Shaven's Drive, and they'll be glad to. They've got 2 shredders rented over there that they can shred the debris. So, but and the leaf collection is still going on. So if anybody has any problem with that, just call the city. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Glenn
Mr.
is in
Glenn?
the house. All right, yeah, go ahead, Ms. Sedkamp.
I've been off a couple of days. I keep forgetting to press my button. I have personally received 15 phone calls from citizens that say, kudos to Public Works for this. I don't know of another city anywhere that does this. And I herald the guys. It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. But one citizen said, now that's my Erlanger. And I just love that. Thank you, Peter and staff.
Yeah, they've taken on a ton of additional work in a time when they're already very busy, so thank you. All right, then we'll move on to administration. Mrs. Skidmore and Mrs. Cahill.
Yes, I just wanted to announce that 78% of our tax-paying citizens took advantage of the discount for paying by October the 31st. I think that's the largest amount we've ever had at this point.
Great.
It's a good job.
I'd like to announce the upcoming events for the city of Erlanger. The first one is December the 1st, which is a Saturday. That's the Christmas lighting of the Christmas tree at the depot. It's from 7 to 8:30 at the Railroad Depot Park. And I believe there's hot chocolate and cookies, and there's maybe Lloyd singing, or there's just a bunch of stuff going on. Pictures with Santa Claus, and each child will receive a small gift from Santa, and you can take as many pictures as you want. And then on the 7th of December through the 9th of December is the holiday train exhibit, and it's here at the City Building. You can check the hours on our Facebook page or to go to this city's website. And the first 12/7, it's 1 to 8, then it's 10 to 6 and 12 to 4. But if you want to remember those, just check our website and you can do that. And it'll be back in the back area here if you want to do that. And that's it. Sherry?
Sherry, can you hit your mic?
The general government offices will be closed on November 22nd and 23rd. And just remember that waste collection will be delayed a day, so there will not be collection on Thursday, but your Thursday collection will take place on Friday, and Friday collection will be on Saturday. And then we're also participating in community kindness again this year by collecting gently used or new hats, gloves, and toys. All items received will be distributed to families in the Erlanger and Ellesmere communities, and starting next week, we'll have a container in our front lobby if you're interested. And that's all, sir.
Thank you. All right, then, Finance and Business Development, Mr. Blankenship, Mr. Montgomery.
Thank you. The auditors are currently working on preparing a draft of the comprehensive annual financial report. We expect to receive a copy of the draft in the coming weeks, and after that is received, they'll proof the document and complete the management discussion and analysis and the transmittal letter. And they should be a formal presentation for an audit report at the January Finance Committee meeting. Staff is currently finishing the October 31, 2018 financial statements, and those statements will be distributed as soon as they're received. Thank you. Ms. Bodie? I think you left.
All right, thank you. And then we've got Codes, Building, and Zoning, Mr. Burke, Mr. Nicely.
Yes, sir. I've got a couple things here. At the committee meeting last month, we talked about Dogtopia, which we will need to change the text to a conditional use for pet hotels in the neighborhood commercial. So we need to discuss that, see where everybody's at on that. How does everybody feel about the dog hotels? We for it?
So you're asking for a vote, or?
Well, just see, I mean, it seemed like everybody was for it.
Yeah.
So if we are, if we are, then I'm going to ask Mr. Gatlin to read a resolution to give Dave Hahn permission to go to the planning commission.
Do you have that already?
Yeah, that's already.
Yeah, I think
We good?
he had already
Still
gotten
good?
that.
Okay. Very, sorry, can't understand, but it's cold anyway. Anyway, then we talked about the, another one, about the Wicked Dragon Tattoo. And I believe everybody was for that. So I'd like Mr. Gatlin to read a resolution giving Dave Hahn the permission to go to the planning commission. All right, the next one here. The new state building code mandatory goes into effect January 1st, 2019, along with some associated code references for a new state coding book. We need Mr. Gatlin to do the first reading for that tonight. Mr. Gatlin, is that right? Right. And my last thing is, in 2014, the city agreed to partner with the state and county supporting the incentive pay to Archer Daniels Midland Company, ADM, located at 1260 Pacific Avenue. It's the old Wild Flavors. And the agreement was that we'd be pledging 0.94% of the city's occupational license fee to their project. If everybody's good with that, we recommend Mr. Gatlin have the first reading of the ordinance approving the city's pledge of incentives to ADM.
All right, that's on the agenda for this evening.
They all are, right?
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. That's all I have. Sir, you have anything?
I'm fine with it.
Dave Hahn did send out all his reports to anybody. If you got any questions, you can get a hold of Dave or myself. And Dave is somewhere.
Dave's in the house. Nothing further to report? Okay. Mr. Burke, it sounds like you've got what I had last week.
It's a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
Mrs. Skidmore. Yes.
I'm going tomorrow.
Wow. Mr. Skidmore, did you have something that you wanted to mention?
Yes, on that Dogtopia thing. I went around to a few of them dog boarding places. And, I mean, that, where they want to go up there, I think that's a sharing wall with another business, I believe. And I tell you, the places that I went to, them dogs were really noisy. And I don't think you can, you know, get the volume down on them dogs that's not going to disturb the neighbor on the other side of that wall. I mean, it's something to think about. I mean, you know, but I visited the one out on Industrial Road, and I just pulled in the parking lot, and it sounded like the movie of 101 Dalmatians. I mean, there was dogs barking everywhere. So this guy says he can keep that down, and I don't think he can do it. So I don't know. It's something to think about.
Is that what is that one called? Tough, rough?
I don't know. It's out off of Industrial.
Yeah.
So for clarification, tonight is a resolution that will have to be voted on in legislation to allow Mr. Hahn to make the application as a text amendment. Then PDS will obviously make their recommendation, and then it will go in front of the Canton County Planning Commission. Then it actually comes back in front of this body to go for a first and second reading. That being said, obviously tonight, if the will of council is to not go forward, you can avoid a lot of effort and work. So that will be on legislation, and obviously you will have an opportunity to vote on that.
Okay, and the tattoo place that was going into Mother's old building over there, I know when Mother's was in there, they had a parking problem. They would park on the sidewalk. They would park over at Gary Williams Martial Arts. They would cross the highway. There was a lot of things there that was really a safety hazard. And I don't know whether they've got any parking there now at all since the dollar store's in there. I mean, you take the Mothers that went in the old Salvador's building, they're not really that busy. I mean, I can't really see where we need 2 tattoo shops that close. So, you know, something to think about on that too.
All right.
I want to add something else, if you don't mind. Just everybody, I'm sure everybody knows it. If we approve these, that does open up Dixie Highway for dog hotels and tattoo parlors up down Dixie Highway.
As conditional uses.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Jack. But
I'm sorry.
no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Some of the people that hung out at the tattoo parlor, I mean, you know, it's just, I guess, an image that you know, when you first image, and you're like, wow, you know. So I don't have anything against tattoo parlors, but a lot of people, a first image is a big deal, you know. So something to think about.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, you've heard the reports of our committees. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Motion by Mrs. Kyle, second by Mrs. Sedkamp. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion carried. I realized that I unintentionally skipped over our citizen comments. We do have one person signed up to address council, Mr. Meyer, Gary Meyer. All right. Is there anybody else that would like an opportunity to address council? All right, we'll move on to the reports of city operations. First, we've got our city engineer, Mr. Biox.
Yes, sir. You heard the report from the Public Works Department regarding the situation with the improvements in town, the public works, the public improvements. My staff is working on the Center Street resurfacing and curb replacement from Crescent Avenue to Hulbert. And since we've saved some considerable amount of money on these other previous projects, the Public Works Department is considering looking at some additional work on that. So we're going to hold bidding that project until they've had a chance to determine if there's some additional work that can be applied to that job. We're also working on the Houston Road, or Turfway Road at the Circleport entrance, and it is in conjunction with the sidewalk grant project between Turfway and Mineola, and both of those are being designed by my staff. You saw that we received a grant application on Narrows Road and Brightleaf, and as soon as the conditions of the grant are received, we will start working on those plans too. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Our city engineer, Mr. Gatlin.
City
Our city attorney, gosh, this is not my night.
Maybe. I want the house in Florida come with the job? Okay.
By the way, too, I'm not completely losing it, but I did, maybe it was wishful thinking, but I did skip over the entire reports of representatives, so I'll come back to that after we do the report of our city operations. So our city attorney, excuse me, Mr. Gatlin.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. For you?
Nothing.
Okay, great. All right, our city council attorney, Mr. Wickman.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to report other than to extend great congratulations to the mayor-elect and council-elect and wish them well for the sake of Erlanger.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wickman. Our city administrator, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you. The only thing I have tonight is an update on our public services. I'm not sure if Mrs. Hoffman, do you want to talk about it or you want me to?
I'll let you talk.
So I figured. All right. Mrs. Hoffman and I met with the new leadership team. With Republic Services, we kind of just talked about the issues we had. I guess it was last month. And they have a new top leadership guy. They have a new secondary leadership guy, and then we have a new route supervisor and a new driver. So there's 4 new people that we met, 2 of them. And the route supervisor and the driver that was some of the we are having issues with. Both of them have been replaced with other people. Since our meeting a few weeks ago, Ms. Hoffman said that she has seen a significant difference in return, between communication from the company, complaints. That first week we had none. That week we had the meeting. I don't know if that was just coincidence or what. But they really have taken all of our issues and have fixed them rather quickly. Obviously, there's still going to be some issues. But as of right now, we're pretty hopeful that the meeting paid off. The new leadership is going to help out. So I think our recommendation right now is just to go ahead and keep on course with redoing that contract. Again, it's not till June of next year, but we're not looking to rebidding and assuming that this continues on to be a good service like we've expected in the past. So other than that, unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Doesn't look like anybody does. We'll go back to the reports of representatives then. Are there any reports from representatives this evening? Mr. Cahill?
Yeah, so I would just like to reiterate, because it's very exciting, the OKI grant that we did receive. Ed Bailey worked really hard on that, and it is going to extend our sidewalks from Brightleaf to Narrows, which is a much-needed section of sidewalk for safety. Also, Mr. Kramer's been working diligently, and we do have reviewing the OKI priorities list. There are 6 projects in Erlanger, and we probably need to look at that in the next few months to look at what the region is looking for the city of Erlanger as we're planning our projects moving forward also.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other reports? Mr. Cahill?
So Health Department, a couple of things that came up, just informational for the citizens. If you have the opportunity, visit your physician, go ahead and get your hepatitis A shot. There's an outbreak in Northern Kentucky. There was one in Louisville, so if you do, go ahead and get that. We do have the CDC in town for an HIV cluster that's been going on, so they're helping with that investigation too. This is part of the reason also St. Elizabeth is doing their needle exchange to try to prevent these things from going on. So just be aware that these things are going on, and kind of a public service announcement.
Thank you. All right. Any other reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence. Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We received a card from the family of Tim Koenig, just thanking the city for all their support over the last few months.
All right, thank you. All right, then we'll move into bids. We've got several bids to go through this evening. First is the police radios.
You got that, right? No, you're not. So we put out this month, or end of last month, this month, we put out a bid for police for us, City of Edgewood, and City of Independence. We've been working on this for about 14 months. Kenton County put out a bid. There was some confusion at the end, and a bunch of cities decided to go ahead and bid on their own. So with that, we received 2 bids, one from Motorola and one from Harris. Can you put the Motorola one? Yeah, that's it. So with these bids, we did save money by going out and bidding it ourselves. On both companies, we received lesser expense. Is that what it is? Okay.
No
There we go.
kidding.
On my computer. Okay, so we originally placed this bid out back in March, May. Motorola came in about 250 something. On this bid, they came in at 245. We added an extra radio on this bid. They came in at 245, and we got that savings from. They gave a $150 trade-in for portables and a $100 trade-in for the mobiles and free programming. So that was about $18,000 discount they gave us on that. We were receiving that on the other bid in March. So their total for all our radios, all the accessories for the cars and everything comes to $245,087. And then, can you pull up the... On this one, we had planned on this XL 185P. That was what we have been bidding on all year. It's a new radio out at single band. As you can see, the total cost with Harris for that radio is $206,443. Can you hit the XL 200? So with this bid, the XL 200 is the exact same radio, but it's a multi-band radio. So we can have the digital radio in there and then have an analog for like schools channels. We can put that band in our radios. With the discount that Harris was providing per radio, as you can see, was $1,760. Took the radios down to $1,959. So that came out to be about $189 before we added the dual band. So the dual band allows us to put all the school radio channels in our portables. So every officer will have the school channels with the SROs. So in case of emergency, we have that access and capability of doing that. And we added that due to the fact that we saved so much money through these discounts that it was worth putting that in. You'll see one multi-key is a encryption key that we had to get. That's an extra key for the strike force and for our ECAT teams. So they'll have their own, the strike force will provide the key, but it'll have its own second thing. So that adds about $500 per radio. We need 4 of those. So with that, our Harris bid came to $239.80, and I recommend that we go with Harris. If you have any questions, I'm sorry. Right.
I'd like to make a motion that we go with the Harris Company.
All right, we have a motion, a second by Mrs. Kyle. Any discussion? One thing I will note is that we had budgeted $250,000 for each group of these. So is there any other discussion? Go ahead, Mrs. Skidmore.
I mean, I've heard of Motorola, but I've never heard of Harris. How do they, I mean, has Harris been around a long time, or?
It's a military they're in the military. They provide a lot of military radios there. They are around the country. Just different areas have different, Kenwood's real popular in some areas. Motorola's been popular here for as long as 25 years. Harris, UK, University of Kentucky just went to Harris, Scott County, just got a Harris system, bid it in. Covington tonight just accepted for Covington Police and Fire. They just accepted at their council tonight, Harris. Well,
Any other questions? Okay, we've got a motion and a second to accept this. Any other discussion? All in favor? Let's go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely? Ms. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pitts? Mr. Montgomery? Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship? Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. You're welcome. Next, we've got the fire EMS radios.
I've been up here in a while. All right. As the chief mentioned, this has been a process. This has been over a year-long, I don't know, word to really call it. There's been a lot of work, taken a lot of time and effort. I'm just going to read some numbers. I sent you the numbers. If you want to put them up on the board, you can, but I'm just going to speak about them. Obviously, I think Councilmember Sudkamp mentioned that the mayor actually mentioned that the original budget for our upgraded radio system for the fire EMS department was $250,000. We received 2 bids from Harris and Motorola. Harris bid came back at $204,860.40. Motorola came in at $177,309. I can go through some details if you have questions on the difference between Motorola and Harris. Basically, at the lower price, we're getting what we desire and what we need. If you need specifics, I can give them. It's up to you, but I want to make the recommendation that we go with Motorola. Yes, ma'am.
Will they be compatible with the police system?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Good question. Any other questions?
I'd just like to make a motion to accept the Motorola bid.
All right, we've got a motion. Second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All right, then we'll call for a roll call vote.
Mr. Skidmore? Mr. Blankenship? Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery? Ms. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. And then you've got a couple others up here, don't you?
Yes, Assistant Chief McQuarrie was up here last month. I was out of town to mention the self-contained breathing apparatus, our SCBA's, in which we received the grant, the Assistance to Firefighters grant, in the amount of $171,000. We had previously budgeted $175 for this. We're very fortunate enough to have received the grant for $171. We received 2 bids, one from 911 Fleet and Fire Equipment for the brand of Scott Air Packs. That price came in at $151,428. Vogopol Fire Equipment, which carries MSA brand, came in at $133,670. Our committee's recommendation is to award the bid to Vogopol Fire Equipment, MSA, in the amount of $171,808. And the reason we have to go over that, to satisfy the grant award, we have to spend over the amount awarded. So with that, our recommendation is to go with Vogopol and MSA.
All right.
Are there any questions?
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept the Vogopol fire equipment bid.
All right. Got a motion and a second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And then next we've got the audio visual.
Yes, this is another item that we had placed in the budget this year for $35,000. This is the upgrade of our current training audiovisual room at Station 1. When we placed that out to bid, we received 2 bids, one from Norcom. However, their bid had to be removed because it didn't include any specifications. The other bid was from Premier Network Solutions in the amount of $25,558. Obviously, it's our recommendation to go with Premier Network Solutions. And I do want you to know that above and beyond the $25,000, we will be purchasing some items within that allotted $35,000 outside of that bid. There were some items that we could do on our own to save some money in there, but the money will be spent. But their bid came in at $25,568. I recommend that we go with Premier Solutions for the training room upgrade. Any questions?
All right. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the Premier Network Solutions bid.
All right. And a second. There's been a very enthusiastic Mr. Montgomery over there. I was looking that way finally to catch you this time. Second by Mr. Montgomery. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I want to thank you very much. We're going to have new SCBAs, we're going to have new radios, our gear is newer, and we're going to have new fire trucks coming in very soon. And none of this happens without you all. So it is our department. You are giving us tools to do what we need to do, and it's greatly appreciated, each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Very nice of you to say that. All right, Mrs. Hoffman, Mr. Biax, are there any other bids this evening?
No, sir.
All right, then we'll move on. Is there any old business to discuss? Mr. Cahill?
Yeah, we had a discussion a while ago about, I think it was when citizens were wanting to put stuff together, you know, for honoring family members, people like that. I don't think we ever finished that process. Is there a way we can look into that again and maybe get that started?
You're talking about in the parks?
Parks, things like that, yeah.
Okay. And you want to discuss this at the next committee meeting?
I think that would be good.
Okay.
Mr. Cahill, I did create a procedure on that. I could send that. I thought I'd sent it out to council in the past. But I'll send it out again.
Okay, and I couldn't remember if that happened or not.
I don't remember getting any feedback from anybody, but I did send out
Okay.
what the staff kind of discussed.
I'll check it out right now, make sure.
Yeah, go ahead and send it out, and if everybody finds it's, you know, if that answers everybody's questions, then maybe it'll be a short topic at the committee meeting. If not, then we can discuss it more then. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Cahill. I saw somebody else had something too, old business-wise. Okay.
It's fun where I go. No, I just wanted to give kudos to Kim Walking and Ralph and everybody in the city building for the amazing senior Thanksgiving dinner. It was very, very, very well received. They were packed to the hilt. They were so appreciative, and they just had a great time. And I just think it's a wonderful thing that the city does for our seniors. I believe there were 65 dinners, if I'm not mistaken. And so kudos to everybody that worked on that job.
I think it was very nice that you were here distributing dinners and desserts and all that stuff as well. Thank you, Mrs. Sutkamp.
Mr. Cahill, that was sent on May 8th at 3:27 p.m.
I'm going to double check that, make sure.
You're so
He's got a
3:27.
He's got a new phone now, and I can't on there.
All right, thank you. Is there any new business to discuss this evening?
I'm going to bring up something.
Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
You know, with all this ice and stuff, and they had the yellow strips going across these roads, red strips. At night, people couldn't see them. I mean, we need to put a cone there. Down on Sunset, the tape was black and red. People kept pulling all the way up to the tape. And I'm sure it was other places.
Oh, this is where there were trees down and
Trees
stuff
down
like
or
that? I
wires
had not seen
down,
any of
or,
that.
I
Okay.
mean, you know what I mean? Just for a thought in the future.
Black and red tape couldn't be seen.
No. Just something to think about.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that's our last ice storm of the year. Yeah. All right, any other new business to discuss? Go ahead, Mrs. Sutkamp.
I had some citizens complain about a dumpster that was in their neighborhood. And the police were called one time because children were playing in it. And then, so I contacted the codes department, and the lady that called me said that it had been there for over a month and she hadn't seen anybody use it for anything. And anyway, codes went over and checked into it and called Bavarian, and it was moved immediately, ironically. So they did their job, but it was the suggestion from the codes department that we have some type of an ordinance in place for these dumpsters, and like how long they can be at a specific location, or have some way of tracking, you know, because it was very upsetting to the neighbors to have it there for that long.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can discuss that at the next committee meeting as well? Okay. I know as being in a business where we order dumpsters on a regular basis, we pay a lesser rate when we have construction debris that's in it. And so we're usually motivated to get rid of it pretty quickly, because otherwise it has refrigerators and couches and things like that.
gotcha.
And then we have to pay a higher rate. So, but someone who might be having household waste may not have that same motivation. All right, thank you. Are there any other new business items? All right, then we'll move on to legislation. First, we've got an ordinance, or no, excuse me. The first item on the agenda is the ordinance regarding the police department budget amendment, and we're going to go ahead and table that until next month. So our first one will be the ordinance regarding the state building code. This is a first reading.
So an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending Section 150.30 of the Erlanger Code of Ordinances and Ordinance 2390 relating to 815 KAR 7:120 Kentucky Building Code and 815 KAR 7125 of the Kentucky Residential Code as adopted by the Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. In summary, this is somewhat of a housekeeping matter. The state of Kentucky passed in June or July, David, of this year, a new building code which did adopt and include the underlying sections that you see in this ordinance, which would be the 2015 International Building Code, the 2012 National Fire Code, as well as the other additions of the 2015 International Mechanical Code, the 2009 International Energy Compliance Code, and the 2012 International Energy Compliance Code. It's just a first reading.
All right, we'll ask Mrs. Hoffman to note in the minutes that we've had the first reading. Next, we've got the ordinance regarding ADM incentives, another first reading.
This is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, providing for a credit of its occupational license fee for new employees as part of an economic development project by Archer Daniels Midland Company under the Kentucky Business Investment Program, KRS 154.32, Section 10 through 154 .32, Section 100. In summary, we would be providing this 1% credit is projected to be split between the city of Erlanger and Kenton County, and the local credit of 1% will be prorated based on the relative estimate of occupational license fees for the city of Erlanger. And you also can see that over the 10-year period in the city of Erlanger will have the opportunity to support a 0.94% credit of its occupational license fee. For a 10-year period in Kenton County, will have the opportunity to support a 0.06% credit of its occupational license fee for a 10-year period, totaling a 1% credit locally. The local credit will cause a 3% Kenton personal income tax credit on such new jobs under the KBA, and this is a total 4% credit. This is also a first reading.
All right, Mrs. Hoffman, if you could please note the first reading. Then next, we've got a municipal order regarding surplus property.
This is a municipal order of the city of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. Pursuant to KRS 82083, attached is an Excel spreadsheet which details the items that are being disposed and the disposal method. This does require a vote.
All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Sudkamp, second by Mr. Montgomery. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Mr. Cahill,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke, Mr. Nicely, Ms. Cahill,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery, Ms. Fetty,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore.
All right, motion carried.
Ms.
Next is,
Sudkamp, I left off
Oh,
Ms.
excuse me.
Sudkamp.
so what is your vote, Mrs. Sudkamp?
I vote yes.
Okay,
I vote yes.
all right, thank you. All right, then we've got a resolution regarding the Pet Hotel conditional use text amendment.
So a resolution sponsoring a proposed zoning text amendment adding pet hotels as a conditional use to the neighborhood commercial zone. This resolution would allow the city's economic director as an agent of the city's legislative body to have authorization to apply and propose for this text amendment to be studied and set for a public hearing pursuant to KRS 200.211, again, adding pet hotels as a conditional use to the neighborhood commercial zone. And before the mayor asks for a motion, I would just remind council that this would be allowing Mr. Hahn to make application for the text amendment. Kenton County Planning Commission would then hold a public hearing on that, and then this body would have to approve by ordinance that text amendment, which would then allow an applicant to go in front of the Board of Adjustments to have it as a conditional use. So.
All right, do we have a motion? By Mr. Burke, second by Mr. Montgomery. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Blankenship, Ms. Fetty,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery, Ms. Cahill,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely, Mr. Burke, Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sudkamp,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore.
All right, motion carried. Next is a resolution regarding the tattoo parlor text amendment.
So a resolution. This is a resolution sponsoring our proposed zoning text amendment, adding tattoo as a conditional, adding tattoo parlors, I should say, as a conditional use to the neighborhood commercial zone. Again, just like the last resolution, this resolution will authorize David Hahn as our city's economic director and agent of the city's legislative body to apply and propose for the study of tattoo parlor to be added as a conditional use to the neighborhood commercial zone.
All right, do we have a motion? By Mrs. Fetty, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? Mr. Cahill?
So, Mr. Skidmore's point about the parking, I mean, what has happened over there in that situation? Do we know? Mr. Hahn, anybody? Okay.
And I think that is something, too, that would come up during the conditional use, once they apply for conditional use. Do we, a motion? Oh, no, we had a motion. We were, Mrs. Sutkamp?
I'm sorry, wouldn't that be part of the planning development to figure out if there was enough parking for that business or no?
No, so they wouldn't be looking at this particular site. So all we're doing is requesting a text amendment, so they would be looking at whether it would be appropriate to add as a text amendment to neighborhood commercial tattoo parlors. It would be up to the Board of Adjustments to be looking at that specific site.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? No, we did have a second, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Ms. Skidmore?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore? Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
3 noes.
motion carried. Thank you. All right. And there's no other items to discuss, then I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Motion by Mr. Nicely, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.